Okay, so we may be live. Just give me a second. All part of the fun here. Maybe having a lag here. Just a delay.
In the intro, though, seller CPA, you might want to curve that too, because again, I don't want to give the impression
Oh yeah,
you
I'll get
are,
that
I am
edited.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get that edited. Sorry, I put that
You
together.
took the
It,
big bad test. I have not taken the big bad test.
well, there's four big bad tests, but yeah, like
Yes, you have taken
yeah,
all four big bad tests. So
yeah, but you are
I
in
have not.
some weird way connected with your family that own.
Yes. Oh
So
no. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's yes. I'm excited about I like that because what's good thing about us gone, if I can speak correct English. Good thing that finishing school just within the last couple of years and like going through those classes and taking these tests and all that stuff is that you tend to be a little bit more knowledgeable on the latest stuff versus just trying to do a new CE every year, right? You're just continuing because the continuing education is still not going to be. I mean, there's a lot
yeah,
of things that change.
yeah, it's going to be a kind of a summary, but I will confirm we are live now, so everything we're saying is. But why don't I do introductions then, just so that they know who to send the paperwork to? Uh, so welcome back to Adventures in Data and Finance. We're doing a special event tonight. Today we have Matt Sellers of Redbird Consulting. Matt and I go back. We actually took our ethics course together as I was working towards my CPA, and Matt. You've got affiliations with a CPA firm, even though you're not a CPA. Again, for the record, let the record show that. But you've been doing taxes for a few years, and great friend, and wanted to welcome you to the podcast today. So
Awesome. Well, thanks, Matthew, for letting me be part of it.
yeah, no, for sure. So, what I thought we'd do today, just kind of a very casual kind of conversation here. We're both working through tax season right now. I know there's a lot of people who probably have a lot of tax questions. I've talked to a few already in my neck of the woods. I'm sure you have too. We were going through one of those cyclical big years, usually the first year of a president's term. I guess in this case, a non-consecutive term in the case of President Trump. You get a lot of tax changes. We saw this as well. I remember with when Joe Biden came into office back in 2021, and obviously 2016, 2017 as well, with all the changes that Donald Trump did during his first term. So yeah, we'll talk about just things that we're seeing, right? We can talk a little bit about like some of the changes if we come up with it, but it's really more about helping those of you who are watching this, maybe that are looking to do your taxes now in the next 3 weeks before the deadline, or maybe a little bit later if you're going to get an extension, to just know what's kind of out there and what to expect. And so I guess the way I'll start this off, Matt, is to just ask the question of like, how are you finding this tax year versus others as far as how busy the first half of it has been, January through February? Have you found that it's been busier than normal for that? Has it been lighter than normal or just about the same?
No, definitely busier because I think some of the new tax laws that went in play last year with the big beautiful bill have people probably a little bit more confused about the different rules, especially when it comes like the overtime, the no tips stuff, the car interest as well. So a lot of good questions, and we typically pick up more clients. Our area is a growing area, so we get a lot more people. We're actually turning down folks now just because we can't take it um, just too close to tax season. We already have too much on our plate.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I'm glad you brought up the overtime thing because I think that part of the confusion and part of the concern that's come out of that is that what was promised in the 2024 presidential campaign and what was delivered by Congress were two very real different things in a lot of cases, including that overtime. So, I'll start off with, I'll frame this for you. Well, I'll start off with what the promise was. And the promise was we're not going to have tax on overtime at all. It's going to be completely tax free. You work over 40 hours and you won't pay a penny of tax on even the next minute after that. What's the reality on the ground for that, Matt, as far as not just what the actual rule is, but what are you seeing on W-2s, for example, when it's coming through, if you're seeing anything at all?
No, well, W-2 first, I mean, most of everything our governments do, they put into law, they make promises, and then they'll go in and try to figure it out. That's how our government works,
I
in
would
my
call it a
eyes.
meat grinder, but sure.
Yes. Well, they did it. We saw it during COVID, right?
Yeah.
With the wage things, give back money. Now, then they went back and audited all these people and find out people did it as fraud and blah blah blah. Basically, they put something in law without any type of accountability, any type of way of monitoring it, and then they basically said we'll just figure it out as we go. Over time, specifically with that, and even tips, is that there's no good reporting on it. Most of my people are like, "Isn't that on my W-2?" It's not. You typically have to bring in now. Some people will bring in a form their company gives them, which I think the companies that do that are brilliant. But majority of them, we just have to look at their last pay stub because W-2s generally don't have overtime, or at least if they do, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen it. Maybe some do. Have you seen any with the overtime on it?
Yeah, I've seen 2 versions of that. I've seen it,
Yeah.
in box 14, that, kinda dumpster drawer
Yep.
of,
Yep.
other
Yeah.
stuff. I've
Yeah.
seen some companies that have had
You are
either
right.
the
I have
yeah.
seen one or two W-2s with, but that's a rarity. And you are right. I did see one with somebody with that.
Yeah, I've seen a few. It hasn't been nothing. I've seen the letters as well. So yeah. So like going back to the scenarios, I've seen companies have written a custom letter for the employee saying, "Here's your overtime." Right. I've
And
seen
that's the
the
best.
Yeah, well, there's one slightly better, which is the premiums on the overtime. I've seen versions of that both as a separate letter and on box 14 in your W-2, where it just says overtime premium. And for those, again, who aren't familiar with what this means in lawyer speak, right, or tax speak, this basically is the premiums are actually tax free. The regular overtime
Yeah.
hours aren't. So if
Only the
you're
50% extra. So yeah, you're right.
yeah, yeah. So if you're making, like, let's say $30 an hour and you work 2 extra hours in a week, so you're going to get 2 hours of overtime, you wouldn't get paid just 30, you get paid 45 for those 2 hours. That $15 extra is tax free. The regular 30 on even those extra 2 hours is not. And you can thank Congress again for that because they were the ones that were negotiating it. As far as I was following it, was basically around wanting to increase the SALT deduction for high tax states where
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
that matters a lot. They
Yep.
basically you threw this under the bus along with the no tax on Social Security, which we'll get into in a
Oh,
minute.
that's yes. So that is another
Yeah,
one of my pet peeves and the most
yeah.
misunderstood one, right? And honestly, I not to get political, but
I'll get
a
political.
lot of
It's
this
fine.
was just
Yeah,
a compromise.
yeah.
It's
Meat
just a
grinder,
compromise.
meat grinder.
We
Hashtag meat grinder.
basically yeah, the people. I mean, the people that promised this, basically, the other side wasn't going to give them anything, so they said, okay, well, I'd rather have maybe nuggets than nothing at all, and that's what we got. Is that we got pennies versus nothing, and what was being pushed for was dollars. So the Social Security is a perfect example. There's no tax on Social Security. That's not a thing. It's like people hear that, but it's not a thing. It's anybody that's over the age of 65 get an additional 6 grand. Even if you don't have Social Security, you'll still get 6 grand, except for anybody that makes a couple over 150,000. And
Yeah.
then it starts to decreasing that 6 grand.
Yeah, and so let's let's talk about that as well. But before we do that, I just want to kind of reiterate for the overtime stuff. If you're still ready to file, if you know you have overtime, go to your employer. If you don't have documentation, look at your W-2. If it doesn't show your overtime hours, we can work off of that. We can work off the overtime premium, as you said. It's just some simple arithmetic. But make
Your
sure you have
last
something.
paycheck is typically good enough too.
Yeah, and that's true too. Your last paycheck because it'll show the earnings in there. So that's the one I haven't seen much. But let's shift over back
The
to
stub,
the.
not the actual paycheck, but the
Oh
stub.
yeah, the sub. Sorry, thank you. It's been a long day.
But no, and
Yeah,
I didn't say that either. And I actually, it's always I would always revert back to that too, because that's going to be the most honest one, and you can check, to see how much overtime. And just what Matthew said, revert back. It's not the entire amount; it's just the amount of the actual overtime. So it's
it's
that
the
fifty
50%
percent.
bonus. Yeah,
Yes, or some
yeah,
people give 200%, so then it'd be that
yeah.
extra 100% bonus.
Yeah, I've
So,
seen that. If you work on Sundays, sometimes companies will give you double, so that counts
yep,
as
that's
well.
exactly
And make sure your preparer knows that, like whether it's one of us or someone else, make sure they know that some of that overtime is double time, and that like you basically half of that in that case should be counted for no taxes, because otherwise the default that we'll take is to say a third of it is no taxes, and
Yep.
you want the half if you can take it. So
Yep. And we're not we don't read minds. So
yeah, yeah.
make sure that you tell.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, let's go back to Social Security. So as you said, the rule or the promise on this one was no tax on Social Security. This has been a just historically, this has been a big, actually wedge issue in a lot of elections because seniors tend to vote in higher numbers, and people will still remember when Bill Clinton, when he was president, authorized the law to actually start taxing some of the stuff, and they don't like it. So the promise was in 2024 we're not going to have tax on Social Security. The reality, as Matt said here, and we'll forget the phase outs for this conversation, Matt. But the reality was you get $6,000 as a bonus on your deduction, and 12,000 if you're married, right, and filing
Yeah.
jointly. But I
Well, it's
have
6,000 is for each person.
Free,
So if you're
but
married, obviously it's two
oh,
people.
there is an exception. There is an exception. If you're married filing separately, no 6,000.
Then you each get 6,000 on your own. It's the same. It's just 6,000 per person.
Yeah, check it out. We've come across a couple of cases like this. It's if they're filing separately, they're not getting it. I had one case I remember in particular back in February where they actually could have filed jointly. They always did it separately for whatever the personal reasons were. But the
Yeah, I think
software didn't
people
put it in.
think they get better because
Yeah.
people think they get better benefits off it, and that's rarely the case.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's usually the opposite. It's usually you get cut off at the knees. But
But I did
yeah,
find a example. Sorry, not to cut you off, Matthew.
yeah,
Just a
go
real
go go ahead.
quick
Yeah.
disclaimer is that I actually have a lady who commingled with her spouse. They purchased a house and he together, but commingled in the house together. They weren't married. They each bought the house, each bought separate part of the house, 50-50. The
Hmm.
gentleman passed away and she inherited this other half of the house with a step up basis.
Okay.
Have you ever heard anything like that?
Yeah, I can see that.
It's crazy. I don't know. That was crazy to me. You have to wrap your head around it. You're like, what? But you're really telling. But they weren't. They just commingled, and they have a note, like basically a piece of paper. It was just. I don't. It wasn't something they were planning to do. Like, but it actually ended up
That
benefiting.
I wait for the Stephen King movie to come out. So,
Yes, right. I mean, not, I mean, I don't think they meant like anything. They weren't thinking this far ahead, like when the dude passed away. I guarantee you that. And
yeah,
yeah, it ends up actually working out in their favor. And I was like, wow, that's pretty slick, man.
yeah, yeah. Well, and again, like any tax strategy where one of you has to die, I don't know if that's the best,
Yes,
the best
I
approach.
agree.
But
That's what we were saying when we were talking together. We are like, man, yeah, anytime you gotta, oh,
yeah, yeah.
that's not
So
this, that's not what we want to go with.
yeah. So one other thing, just related, while we're still talking about folks who are in their silver years, over 65 in the tax world. One other thing, and I think this is related to the promises of no tax on Social Security. Um, is that I've seen a lot of people, I don't know about you, Matt, who are collecting Social Security in retirement, the retirement stage of their life, and they're not doing any withholding on their Social Security at all this year. right? And so what I'm seeing, I'm in a state where in South Carolina where we do have an income tax because we're not as advanced as Texas is in these things. I kind of miss that, but what's happening is I'm getting a lot of returns coming back where they owe money on the federal side and then they get a little bit of a refund on the state side, the way we work here, right? And I've had more than a few people that are a little annoyed by it, saying, "Why am I paying, the government right now?" And we can, we can have that discussion as well later. But I think a lot of it has to do with they were coming into this year thinking, "Great, my Social Security is completely scot free. It's not going to have any taxes. I can finally just keep 100% of what I'm collecting." On that paycheck, and I even have a family member I just did the taxes for today, and she was talking to me about it, and I said, yeah, like what you'll probably have to do is start, putting aside a little bit of money every month, because this continues to be an issue. Is that something you've had with the folks that are the Social Security taxpayers that you've come across so far this year?
Yeah, but the problem with the Social Security stuff is there's such an array of different people and different income levels and so forth. Social Security is really hard because if they have no other income, they're not going to get taxed on it, right? Because it's based off. Is that what I'm thinking you're going with, Matthew? Is you're talking about the
Uh,
Social Security line on the 1040, right?
Yeah, theoretically, yeah. They wouldn't get taxed on it at the rates that they're getting paid out. But a lot of them also have 1099-Rs, the retirement, slips that are
Yes.
coming back from IRAs and stuff like that. So they're not in that boat.
So it's dependent on that. I think
Yeah.
is more as what other income do you have? And that income could change unless you're getting an RMD, required minimum distribution. Then you have to pull it out every year. But if they don't pull out every year, and they don't have any other income, then it just does what I always would recommend. And you're right, Matthew, that most people don't withhold on Social Security because when they just sign up for it, it's basically just here's your name, here's your stuff, there you go, here's your Medicare, and off we go. If they get Medicare is I would change my withholdings on the 1099s typically, and that's what I would recommend. I don't know how what you're saying paying more like quarterlies, or go to Social Security and have them withhold it. Is your
Yeah, like
thought?
you could do it, but like, let's hear your thoughts on this because I said I've seen it coming through. I haven't been giving specific advice to folks on like withhold on this versus that. But why would you choose the 1099?
Because they're easier. You can
Okay.
call your financial person or your retirement and say, hey, I want to withhold 20%. I want to withhold 10%. You can typically come up with a good number of what next year. The hard part is going to be because you have your tax rate and then you have your actual rate, right? Two different things. Your tax rate is going to be wherever you are, 12, 20, 22, 24, around there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your effective rate, which I said actual rate, your effective rate is actually what you get taxed, after your deductions, your credits, what you're actually paying in, right? So when you do the tax return at the very end, you kind of go through and say, okay, what's your effective rate? Most time it'll be between 10 or 15%, average. And this is typical average person. Some above average people that make more money, it'll go up, but typically won't go too much more than 15-20% at most. Nobody pays their actual tax rate for the
Mm-hmm.
most part.
Yeah.
So I would never tell somebody, oh, you're at 24%, you need to hold all 24. Even though probably every dollar after that amount would be at 24% if they add any more to it, but they're not. It'll get reduced and blah blah blah. So what I tell people is, hey, we know your 1099-R. It's just easy to move, withhold there. And it doesn't matter where you're withholding because it's all in the same pie. You're
Yeah.
getting 20,000 from Social Security, 20,000 from a retirement, 20,000 from annuity, 20,000 from, I don't know, a company plan, whatever. So let's say they all make up 100,000. So where you're withholding your tax, the tax bill is the same no matter what.
Yeah. And
So
as
where
long as you're
you withhold
withholding
it,
somewhere, as long as you're withholding
yeah.
somewhere, you're fine. Right.
So
You could
pick one you
even
don't really
yeah.
care.
You could even theoretically in your case, you could actually withhold 100% on one of them, never collect a dime from it. right? But that's your basically your
Uh,
tax amount, right? So,
yeah, just say
yeah,
that's what I'm gonna pay my tax in. Exactly. I can't.
yeah,
What happens is people when they see sometimes their tax bill, they look at it and they like freak out or they don't withhold enough, they don't want to pay it. But it's all the same. I mean, it doesn't matter how you cut it up.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Now, one exception I will point out. Now, this probably isn't going to affect you guys over in Texas too much, but if you're on the East Coast, I have worked with some government employees in those notorious Northeast states, New York, and I found out there, New York, for example, and I'm sure there's other states like that up there as well, is notorious. If you worked for the government up there, whether it's a local police officer role or you worked in one of the different departments for the state as well, they consider you to be tax exempt there. But if you move to South Carolina because the weather's nicer and I would say, yeah, like I have nothing wrong with New Yorkers. They've been really friendly to me over my life, but we'll go with the weather's nicer. Um, they will
I love New
tax it.
York. New York is actually a really good city. It's just busy
Oh,
and
the
exactly.
state is really nice,
Yeah.
right? I know that some New Yorkers won't feel that way, but I actually there's a charm to New York. But
Yes, there very much is a charm to New York.
what I was going to say is that you can end up in a situation where South Carolina is going to require tax on that, and the rule is that they're able to get the tax because you're a resident there, right? So even though New York wasn't doing any withholding, they were going to get the state tax bill, and I found out from personal experience because I did try this out for someone. Uh, they will basically go out of their way not to do anything. Actually, I wasn't so much an active participant, but I was more of a spectator. Where someone tried to get them to change this last year, and they sent them a letter saying it's changed, but they never removed the exempt status, and as a result, they're still back in the same boat again today, right? For 2025. So take that as you will. If you're moving between states after you retire, do talk to your local tax preparer, accountant, CPA, because that could affect your taxes in the season. And again, like Matt's saying, you do have to make sure your holdings coming from somewhere. And the 1099-R in that specific case may not be the best option because they are not necessarily going to allow for it. You know, uh, which is kind of
So
strange.
what
This is
happened? Wait, say that again. Sorry, Matthew. They didn't
Yeah, it's good.
allow for the state didn't allow it or what?
Yeah. So we have okay. So the specific example, you have an employee who worked for the state of New York, and they retired out of there, and then they moved down here to South Carolina. Uh, Under New York law, I guess, all right, it says it right on the form. Their state tax was exempt for retirement. They don't tax retirement income for New York for state employees.
Wow.
Right. Nice
Okay.
perk, right? But South Carolina doesn't see things the same way, and as a result, when they go to do their taxes every year, they're under deducting for their or under withholding for their South Carolina return,
Yeah.
and so they're getting dinged, and it's also the penalties as well. So
So that they're not withholding state tax.
yeah, and they can't, and it's funny because you'd think that the government would jump at the opportunity to withhold taxes, in New York of all places too. But the reality is that the state really their infrastructure. I went on the website portal with this particular person, and there's absolutely no option to do any kind of withholding on this tax on the state level. So
Yeah, well, they're not going to pay. Probably they're not going to pay the other state withhold. I mean, they're probably like, this is too much work. We're not doing this. You got to do it on your own. You move out of New York, you figure it out.
but a private company would have to, right? If they were working, say, for Procter and Gamble instead,
Retirement.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd have to withhold it. Like you'd have to elect, say, I'm in South Carolina now. I need to withhold, to get me to, whatever the rate
Yeah.
is to get that 5%. So anyway, so just caution on that. It's a bizarre story, but there are things like that out there that we come across from time to time.
So South Carolina, they tax on everything.
No, they got their own carve
Retirement, the whole
outs.
bit.
Oh, they got their own carve outs. So basically, if you're retired, it's almost impossible to pay tax here.
Oh, good.
I
Good.
just almost almost, but yeah, they've officially declared that they're going to remove the income tax here, but they're actually moving in the opposite direction. As I've done some work on for a local watchdog group here in the state capital recently. If you go to palmettostatewatch.com, you can see one of my dashboards that shows that you actually end up paying more tax under the new bill that's going through the legislature right now. Go figure. So,
Hard to get rid of it once you get. That's why there'll never be no tax on Social Security because who's going to pay for all those social programs? You
yeah.
can't, right? Like you have to get rid of this. If we ever going to do it, you have to have terms on Congress and the Senate, right? The
Hmm.
House and Senate. You have to have terms on them, and that then we have to get new people in, and then we're gonna have to cut a ton of these social programs, and then maybe we can have no tax on Social Security. But as long as these social programs exist, how do
Well,
they get
Matt,
paid?
Matt, you got to think of the kids. I mean, how is Brazil going to have Sesame
Yeah,
Street without our taxes?
I think
Yeah.
but
So
even go farther than that, though. I mean, and how much complaints, like we hear this on a daily basis, right? From all
hmm
different. I mean, this is not a political issue.
yeah,
Nobody likes to get taxed on Social Security.
or
I've never
anything for that
once,
matter.
or yeah, right. Like even the most pro social program person ever, ask them how much they donate. Zero.
Yeah.
So it's quite funny. All the people that tend to vote with their hearts are sure aren't doing it with their pocketbooks,
Well, I was going to say the
and they
loneliest
also
box.
complain the most.
Yeah. Yeah, the loneliest that is so true. But the loneliest box on a 1040 is that $3 donation request to the presidential election debate committee, right? So I don't
You
think I've
gotta
ever checked that.
wonder. You gotta wonder who came up with that.
Oh, I'm sure it was part of some Graham compromise back in the '80s or something. That's my guess. Is probably in the '80s is when that came out. So
Oh, that's hilarious, man.
yeah,
Somebody be like, "Hey, we should." I'll have to do a little history diving on that because and then how many people actually check it? There's got to be a stat somewhere.
I'm sure in a country of 330 million, I'm sure there's at least a few thousand that probably do every year. But it's
You get a good
it's
patriot person.
well, I don't know if it's a patriot person anymore. I think it's just the person who's like, they want to feel patriotic, but they're also like, well, I want to make sure that the debates have the funding. Otherwise, there won't be those glasses of water for the candidates on the podiums and, right, stuff. I don't know.
Okay. Hey, and the water costs $50 a bottle. I mean, come on, you got to
Yeah.
get it there. Do
Yeah.
you know how well our government likes to? They're very good, which is kind of ironic because you have the IRS, which is actually a really good at collecting. Like IRS is a really good machine at collecting payments.
Yeah.
And I even think they're good at like choosing audits and doing that. But then you got the rest of our government that just doesn't know what to do. Like our politicians are clueless for the most part.
Well, maybe what we need to do is put some IRS agents into other departments and, tell
Well, I
them
don't know
like
if I want
whatever
to
you.
do that. I don't know how much we want to go be collecting that, Matthew.
Oh
Calm
no
down
no no
now.
no 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 no! Like it would be fun. Like they get a commission on every dollar they recoup that's like misspent.
You know who I think we should be put in charge of our country is all the plumbers and all the carpenters and people that go to work and like bust their hump every day.
That's
Like
actually
get these
yeah.
intellectuals out of the office.
I agree. Actually, I've brought up this conversation. I'm not kidding. I brought this up with one of the members of that watchdog group. Again, just a shout out to them, palmettostatewatch.com. And also someone else actually here in South Carolina. I actually think that one of the chambers, and if I had to vote for it, I'd say the House of Representatives should not allow for any lawyers to be elected there. Right. And
Yes,
and
amen.
make it so that like all legislation coming out of that body is plain language, real people can understand it, and
Yes.
it's not manipulated to kind of like do the exact opposite of what it's saying it's going to do when it goes to the courts, right? And you can have the Senate still there so you can have the lawyers and they can make sure it's a little more watertight, but they're kind of taking
Yep.
more of a passive role and an oversight role, which is really the original idea of the Senate anyway, right? Not just here in this country, but take my word from it. Other countries as well, same idea. That upper chamber was always meant to be kind of the, as we would have called it back in Canada, the sober second thought, right? Today, I think it's just kind of more of the babbling, incoherent thought. But given the average age of a senator in, in Washington, but
Yeah. You're preaching it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is so. I mean, and you can look at the big beautiful bill as a good example of that.
Hmm.
And I mean, obviously, you and I are pretty much pro as far as being conservative. We like keeping our money. We feel we know what better to do with our money versus giving it to the government. As we complain about the government spending all of our money, right? And how, which is even more funny because I'm less inclined to complain about my taxes. Like I don't mind paying taxes versus a lot of our clients come in to look at their faces that have them pay taxes. It almost feels like you're cutting off their arm, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I'm not kidding. I had a case today of all things where I'm just trying to help this poor person explain what their spouse was doing with their business,
Oh no.
and and basically like she was almost in tears at the end, right? Just kind of
Oh
like,
no.
yeah, she's like, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing everything I can to help you out within the framework of the tax code, right? But I can't go any further unless I get better information. And it was so yeah. I think that's part of it too. And maybe this is going back to kind of some tips for our audience here. The best time to start planning for tax season is now. But let's be
Yes.
clear, you're not planning for your 2025 taxes that are due in 3 weeks. You're planning
Yeah.
for 2026 right now. There are a lot
Yep.
of best practices. I maybe what we can do is we can kind of do kind of a what do they call it, like kind of a flash round or whatever, right? I'm gonna start naming one thing that I think people need to start doing, especially if you own a small business right now, and then I'll turn it over to you, and we'll go back a couple of times if that works, right? And the first one I'm gonna
Yeah.
do,
No, I think it's great. This I actually like the small business.
okay, mile IQ. If you're driving, if you're going anywhere, get a mileage app. Mile IQ is a great one, and it keeps all of your mileage so that at tax season you just send us the printout, and we there's no double guessing how far you traveled, especially if you're doing Uber or Lyft, right? They're going to undercut you because they're not counting the time it took you to drive to that, like Astros game or something.
Right.
They're just
Yeah.
counting when you're
Preach.
on the
Yeah.
clock, right?
Counter
So
that.
okay, so your turn now, Matt.
No, I love that the Mile IQ one too. And if you're not, we have a lot of clients that are not technology savvy people. Go and just get you a book, a little book that you can put in your car, and just write in the location. You need a log,
Yes, yeah.
so that's a great one.
And if
That is
and
absolutely
I will say this as someone who can't write legibly, if my life depended on it, they had me in the interrogation room and they're like, okay, look,
awesome.
you just have to write one paragraph legibly. My kids would grow up without a dad, so it's,
You would be gone.
I'd
No,
be
the
gone.
technology, but man, we have some older. We got some older folks that like Uber. I don't think they are, or they didn't. They weren't sending the paper. You had to go into the app and download it, and that's how you would get your 1099 NEC. And they wouldn't know. Like we have some folks that were doing it. They didn't know how to do it, so you had to go into the reporting under the Uber app and blah blah blah. So I'm with you. If you can do it on the phone in the app, 100%. But at a
Yeah,
minimum, at least get a book.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Next one that I'm going to throw out there for folks is what can I go with? Oh yes, okay. There are receipt apps as well. I'm not going to kind of sound like a broken record,
Yep.
but at the very least, find a drawer like you see. Like I've got a big drawer back here. Throw your receipts on the top, but before you do it, go to that book or app or whatever spreadsheet even, and write down what
Yep.
the purpose for that receipt was related to your business. Not just I was hungry.
Detailed. Detailed. Detailed.
Yeah.
Who you met for lunch? Why did you meet them for lunch?
Yeah, and just so you know, there have been recent court cases the IRS has fought against small businesses, and I know people don't like to hear this. I've had a few discussions where I can tell people are frustrated. I get it, right? But they have the judges on their side, right? If you don't like that, you need to elect new judges, right? In order to do that, you need new politicians, et cetera, et cetera. I understand the Fourth Amendment aspect to this as well, right? I'm a very, very big constitutionalist when it comes to how I think that this country should run. Kind of should go by the original design, but That said, the judges don't agree in the tax courts as much as someone like me would want it to be. So as a result, right, if you don't want to stay out of trouble, as Matt said, you got to have details.
And let's be fair, that the meals have been used and abused.
Yeah, not
So
by you. If you're listening to this and like, I don't want to be. I understand. If I can pick on Texas for a minute,
you're
Matt.
like sugarcoating it for 'em.
Yeah,
Oh no, I'll tell you. I'll tell them
no,
they're
no, no, no,
probably
no.
abusing
But
it
I'll
too.
go specifically. Here's who's abusing it. If you're in Texas, all those construction companies out there, right?
Oh man. Oh no, I got friends. I got friends, and I'm like, you want to talk about something that's so. This is why the courts don't rule in your favor, is
Mm,
because it's so shady. Um, People will take their mom, their spouse out, and say, "Oh, we talked about business for five. Look at a Fogo de Chao or Colleen's barbecue. If I said that right, Klein's, whatever barbecue, like some fancy over the priced restaurant for a date night, and say we talked about business for 5 minutes. I'm gonna write it all off. You can't do that.
yeah,
If you take a client, you can write it off, and that's not saying that you can't take a client to a really nice restaurant. And you can write it off. So, but the problem is the meals and entertainment get so abused
yeah.
that that's why they are ruled against you. That's why detail is everything.
And let's be honest. And said like when you come into our office or offices, wherever you are meeting us, we're actually trying to help you, right, as best we can, right? Um, but I'm sure you're going to agree with us, Matt. I can tell within 30 seconds when there's someone who started a small business for all the wrong reasons, right? If your small business
Yeah.
is basically there just to deduct stuff from your taxes so you don't have to pay as much, and that's the only reason, there's a word that the IRS has for that. It's called hobby.
Hobby or fraud?
That too. Yeah. I
Fraud will
said
get
I'm
you in jail.
yeah.
Hobby will just get you paying taxes.
Yeah, exactly. And the IRS will do that. They will come back if you're really not running a serious business, or even if it appears that you're not running a serious business, even though you are, right? You got to do something about that. Like you've got three strikes literally within 5 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not making a gain, right, on your business for at least 3 of those 5 years, then they're going to declare you a hobby, and all those expenses you thought you were going to write off are also going to wind up right back on your tax
No,
bill.
and they might not declare you a hobby. What they'll do is they'll audit you,
Yeah, which
and
which
they'll
I don't know
see.
which is worse actually. So
True. And the
right.
problem is they start finding stuff they don't like, and now you're on their radar for however long.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And they're
So,
using AI too. They're using the algorithm to basically
yep.
they'll do a statistical analysis. If you remember the bell curve from high school math, right? If there's anything where you're in three standard deviations away from the norm, you can expect that you're going to get an audit letter.
Yep. Yep. You will. And it might be something simple as just show us a proof of this, blah, blah, blah. Or it could be something even, more in depth. Lots of people have gotten audited. It's not the end of the world, but it's something that I don't want to. I like to stay away from the principal's office. I've never been the guy that says, let me go to the principal's office and get in trouble. Like that's just dumb.
Yeah, no, no, for sure. But what I want to do next, because this is a great discussion here. We're going to change pages here. We're going to get into the horror stories in a second here. Before we do that, though, Matt, I wanted to give you an opportunity to give a shout out to your business, Redbird Consulting. What kind of folks should be calling you up here after tax season's over and things calm down?
So for us, it's just about tax planning. What you said earlier rings a great bell. Just to reinforce that, if you're planning the month before if you're planning in January of the following year, it's too late. You can't do anything. Good tax stuff is always done before. It's not reactive, it's proactive. So what I like to do is just set people up, businesses as well. Don't overcomplicate yourself. A lot of times people will get advice from different people that they need to have more of like more LLCs or do this or do that. Our whole thought is, three pillars: transparency, loyalty, and then accountability, which is honesty. So we make a mistake, we'll work with you in fixing it. We don't leave it just to hang, you don't leave you out to dry. Transparency will always be open up front with you. I'll tell you how it is every single time. And then loyalty. We won't take on any more people than we can. So if we feel we've maxed out, we're not here to just make and consume as much money as we possibly can. We're here to work along with our clients and be very loyal to our clients.
Okay, that's
And that's
awesome. Yeah.
pretty much it. Redbird Consulting.
Yeah, awesome, Matt. And do you guys have a preferred way that people should be contacting you?
Right in yeah, in June. No.
That's awesome.
uh,
Yeah.
no, not right now. Right now,
Like phone
that's
number,
a great
email, or
question.
anything like that, website,
So
or
so the email that I have right now I can give you is going to be matthew.sellers.tjsellers@gmail.com. Again, that's matthew.sellers.tjsellers@gmail.com. The firm that I work with is tjsellerscpa.com, and we are a small family business. And I am just part of the companies that I work with them during the tax year. So they're actually, just to break it down even more, is it's my parents, and then I have my own Redbird consulting business.
yeah. So that means that you can't do certain deductions, and they're not taking you out for lunch basically as a business expense.
No, we're very much
Although
my
you have
friend.
a
I'm
really
friends
nice
here.
restaurant down the road, so right on the lake. So that's hard. That's hard. That's really
Which
harsh.
restaurant? What are we
That's
talking about? Which one?
Oh no, they're not there anymore. Guadalajare's. They just moved down to
No, they're
Conroe.
downtown Conroe
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and a shout out to Guadalajare's. If you're in Montgomery County or North Houston, you got to go to that restaurant. It's fantastic. Harry is a really nice guy. I've met him in person actually while he was renovating that new restaurant location. He's put a lot of work into it. They've got a patio on the front, and so this is just some unsolicited advertising for him for Guadalajare's in
I
Conroe.
haven't been there. I gotta
You got
go. We
you
saw it
got to
the other
go.
day. We were downtown.
Yeah, you got to go. He
I'll
took
do
me on
it.
a personal
Me
tour
and I.
actually. Yeah,
I think I
so
want to take my wife there and use it as a meal expense.
there you go. And again, if you're keeping notes, you'll know where the problem was with what Matt just said. So
Yes, exactly. IRS, you gotta go back. I was just joking. Do not come at me, please.
yeah, that's two now,
I'm
Matt.
just
Wow.
joking. I will never do that.
You keep on going like this, we're gonna get YouTube banned. So
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. Never mind. I was gonna say something that was like, you gotta only say certain things to get YouTube banned. You just can't. Oh man, it was terrible during COVID. Oh,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm a
So
big free speech guy.
yeah, no, same here, same here. So that's the First Amendment. But let's talk about horror stories. And I'll give you the option, Matt. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first on what some of the worst cases you've had come up and what the lessons people can learn from that on the audience are?
Okay, I'll tell on myself.
Okay.
And this is why it's so important to have your tax preparer walk you through the tax return. Because at the end of the day, you are ultimately responsible for your own tax return. It's not the tax preparer. It's not the person, the EA, the CPA, the tax preparer, the Hewitt Jackson guy, whatever TurboTax. They're not responsible. It is going to be the taxpayer. So one year, a couple years ago, I made a mistake and put an extra zero on a withholdings of a young married couple, teachers that just had a baby. So by adding this extra zero, they were looking to get a refund. Well, they didn't get a refund. And when we went through it, they didn't. They just said they were just so excited to get the refund. Get the refund. They didn't look any deeper into it. And you should know what your withholdings are. Like if something doesn't seem right, then it's probably not right. Kind of dig into it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just ultimately leave it on there. Now we got it fixed. They were going to owe tax on it no matter what. We got the fees waived. We took care of their interest and gave their money back, but they still owed the tax what they originally owed for it. So that was probably the one of my latest couple of years ago was one of my latest ones. I mean, I have other horror stories, but they're not my fault. They're like other people's fault, which is a
That's
lot more
that's
fun than being
very
my fault.
humble and accountable of you, Matt. So that's great. So
So,
yeah.
but no, and I don't think anybody's ever at fault with. And then I'll let you tell your horror story, and then at the end there, I got something to share that I think kind of turns it, and people look at it a little differently.
Yeah, no, no, for sure. And for the record, I've made mistakes too keying and stuff. Frankly, the AI is going to make mistakes as well. If you haven't figured that out already, it's going to kind of look at stuff and you're going to go, "What in the world did it think was going on here?" This is just the nature of data transmission, right? Which is part of our again channel name, data and finance. This is where good data in, good data out, and vice versa. And so Matt's right. Like this, why it's good for us to have you look at your tax return, even take us through it, take you through it. Sorry, is so that if there are questions that come up or things that don't look like they should, or just out of the ordinary versus what you traditionally get, right? That's where the questions should come in there, right? With that said, I'm not. I hope you don't mind, but I'm not going to be as benevolent as you are. I've actually discovered, following up on our recent bad boyfriend TurboTax video that we did back in February, I actually discovered another error with TurboTax. Believe it or not, and most of my business, my focus of my business, I should say, is here in the United States. It's great to work in the U.S. tax system, but I have done some Canadian returns as well this year for Americans because they were actually working across the border. And one of the things I discovered is that Canada, I won't go into the complexities of their tax system, which frankly is far worse. And I got to reminded of that this year.
I used to give Canada a whole lot of trouble on the capital rate, but then I did my own investigation on it. It's not as bad as it sounds. So
Ah,
before we
well,
knock Canada too much, they're not as horrible as what I think their tax stuff, but I do think it's bad. It's worse than ours, which
yeah,
that's
well,
my little 2 cents.
I for a regular return, I would agree, but this was for a non-resident return in Canada, right? So if you think like in the U.S., that we have our own version,
Oh,
Form
that D.
2555, right? So in Canada, as a non-resident, there's a whole complex set of rules around what you get taxed on, but you either don't pay any provincial sales tax or provincial income tax, which is starting at California rates, by the way. That's how high it is up there. All right, starts at
Yeah,
California rates and goes up from there. Or
be
you do
comparable.
pay it, and again, it's going to add on extra tax for your return. Well, I was working on a return, and basically, I decided because I'm not doing many of these this year, to just gonna go through TurboTax and see how it all worked. Right, this side of doing that video I did last February. And sure enough, it didn't add in the provincial tax at all when it should have, right? And so what I'm facing now in this case is I had to basically manually edit the form afterwards to fix it because they either were going to have this client have a non-resident form, which they need to have, but no provincial tax, or it would give the provincial tax but no non-resident form. So it's basically the tax, no matter what, or the TurboTax software was going to have an error no matter what. And I called up TurboTax Canada, and the people were nice, right? But they also they wouldn't let me talk to the actual person that I guess knows how these things work because I guess that costs money and that's fine. But they also did say that after talking to them, they're like, no, if you put it in, it will do all the things it needs to properly, no matter what. And I even called up the CRA, which is the IRS's Canadian cousin, and yeah, all I'll say is just again, if you're going to do your taxes with the tax software for free, fine, right? Be careful because, as Matt just finished saying, you're responsible for your tax return. And TurboTax, as we saw, if you don't believe me, go back and watch that video from the news story that I had in the last video in February. They will bail, right? This has been documented over the last few years. They will bail the first time to trouble. No matter how many guarantees they've been giving, they seem to always find a way that doesn't apply to your situation whenever you find an error in the software. And I personally, I've seen that now, right? Again, I fixed it before the return got filed, but you really, really want to be careful. Again, I think there is a place for tax software. I'm not, feeling threatened by this at all. I think for some people, I've recommended to them, just go do it on the software. It'll, you've got one W-2. You really don't need someone like Matt or I to go and do your tax
Yes.
return, right? But be
No, you're
careful.
overpaying anybody. You're overpaying us all.
Absolutely, right? We're here to help you save money legally, right? And
Yes.
uh and so but that said, be careful what you have. And if you're not sure, I mean, I've even said to some people, and I know some people around the area here are doing this already. Every few years, if you've got like something a little bit more complex, but you're doing it yourself, great. Maybe just have one of us review it. I don't even need to do the full return. I can sit down and look through your returns and your documents and say, okay, here's what I would recommend for next year, or here's what I noticed that you're not taking advantage of, right? And it never hurts to just kind of have a review, and it's not the cost of a full return. In my case, I don't know about you, Matt, but I think that's a great thing to do in the summer if you're like, hey, I'm not feeling like I'm getting the maximum deductions, go visit Matt, go visit myself, depending on what part of the country you're in right now, and we'll help you out with that.
And I will say this though, too, piggyback on it. Be more confident than you think.
Hmm.
What I've found out, and I don't know about you, is that most people actually are probably closer right than they are wrong.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. We don't have magic buttons. Like you can't bring your tax if you did your tax return correctly, you're going to get your tax bill is going to be as down as low as it's going to be. So there's no magic button that we're going to hit. The only thing that we might do is, again, add better strategies moving
Hmm.
forward. It's more about the planning than it is about the proactive stuff. So maybe not pulling so much money out, or maybe doing something different with the money to try to defer some of the taxes, that kind of stuff. I mean, and there's really not, if you make money, you're gonna get taxed.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just reality. And again, making money. I like you said this back a while back when we were together in school, Matt, which is that if you're making money on your tax return, you're upset that you're getting taxed on it. That's actually a good thing. You're making money, right? You're gonna keep most of
No, no,
that.
no. This
Even,
is,
yeah,
I got a solution. I got a solution.
yeah,
If you're upset about getting taxed, this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna send me the money you make, and I'll pay the 10 or 15% on it. And then you don't have to worry about paying taxes on it.
there you go. So that works. So yeah, so send that to Matt. He
I
gave
love
us
it,
the
man. Hey, if
yeah,
you like, hey, we made $1 million, I gotta pay 200,000 or whatever on it. Man, just go ahead and send me the million. I'll pay the tax. You don't gotta worry about it.
yeah.
I'll keep the other $800,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one, I want to do another round of horror stories, if it's okay. I'll start on this one, and this one is actually not even so much tax related, but it's how we found out about it was tax related, and that is, here in the county that I'm in Central South Carolina, there's a lot of great restaurants, really good food. Even though I am actually meeting my diet goals, which is nice, but we're finding out that there's a lot of restaurant chains that seem to not be paying their staff. They're paying their taxes, their FICA taxes like Social Security, Medicaid. They're paying their unemployment insurance premiums off of their wages as well. But they're basically, you know, um, for the waiters and waitresses, they're basically only paying them the tips. That's it, right? And this, might be, and I say this tongue in cheek, this might be a little illegal under labor law. Again, this is not a legal channel, and so I'll leave that for the lawyers on YouTube to kind of talk about. But that's just one thing as well to kind of watch out for too. Is because especially with the no tax on tips stuff that's come in this year, I know a lot of staff in restaurants are really thrilled by that, as they should be. But maybe apply a little bit of wisdom the next time you go out to eat. Ask the staff if they're actually getting paid. In addition, actually getting paid, and I think they'll be a little more forthcoming, if not discreet about it. And then if you're going to tip, if you want to tip the staff, the wait staff directly, and not have part of it go back to the owner, as usually happens, or to other people who are maybe not so involved in the good service that the tip's supposed to represent, it never hurts to pay in cash.
Yeah, but as a server, you need to report the cat. We have to tell you to report the cat.
That yes, that's their job. But on the idea of
Yep.
making sure they're getting paid the tip, that's
Yep.
again, you're paying it by
It's
credit
always
card.
perfect for them.
It actually gets the if the owner is not taking a cut from that. I've now seen documented cases due to tax slips where they're actually using that data to say, well, you don't need to get paid your hourly wage. You're getting enough in tips.
I think there was a show. What's the Ramsey guy?
Dave Ramsey.
The chef. No, that's the money guy.
Oh, that not that show.
Um,
Okay.
not that show. The Ramsey. I can't think of his name, but he's the chef that goes around and he goes into these dumpy
Yeah.
kitchens or restaurants. Not
Hell's Kitchen
dumpy, but
guy.
like that are having a
Gordon
hard
Ramsay.
time. Yes, and puts them together, fix them.
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay. Yes, he went into a restaurant where the guy would take all these people's tips. Oh man, it
Yeah.
was horrible. It was like the worst thing. That's like the lowest of low.
It really is. I mean, I
Leave the
know.
restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
Leave
I
the
mean,
restaurant. There's too many jobs out there for you to work at a place that does not give you your tips.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm working with a local tax firm right now because we're going to be purchasing that firm at the end of the year here, to kind of help, kind of integrate, things, and also to help the retiring owner there. She's been great to work with, by the way. Trish, if you're watching this, we love working with you here. But we were talking about this,
Where
and
is
her
that at?
our tax
I
office
don't know
is
if
in
you told us where that is at.
that is in Camden, Texas. The business, if you look it up on Google, is called Two Ladies in a Ledger. And due to our ownership, structure, we've got two ladies in our business. I'm the ledger, so uh, that's how we're going to do that going
That's
forward.
great.
But yeah,
That's
uh,
awesome.
but yeah, we were talking. We're both very angry about this. It's just it's morally repulsive to see people that are working for free and then just basically like getting paid. And I mean, actually, it reminded me of a story. Now this goes back to my time when I was a wee lad in Canada. In the 90s, there was a waitress from outside of Buffalo, New York, who wrote into the local newspaper in the editorial section and said, basically, our staff are always crying when we see Ontario license plates coming into the restaurant parking lot because we know we're basically going to be working at a negative rate because after before no tax on tips became a thing this year, you had to pay taxes on that, and they basically knew they weren't going to be making any regular wages. And the Canadians, we're kind of known for being a little frugal when it comes to tips. Just to give you a sense of that, the standard tip for just good service in Canada is 10%, right? And that's not because we're stingy or anything, although I know that there's probably an argument that people will make for that. It's more of just that's culturally like it's, hey, look, I'm paying you 10%, which is more, right about where our sales tax is. So, it's actually tip the tax, quote unquote, is a phrase that they'll use up there. And, when determining how much to
That's
tip,
all they
right?
tip is 10%.
A standard tip, a really good tip is 15, right? We're not doing the 20 and
Really?
30
Where are we talking about exactly?
Ontario, around Toronto.
Where are we? Ontario. Okay, we're talking about Canada. Okay, okay. Gotcha. Sorry, I lost track. That makes yeah. So Europe, I think is a lot like that.
Yeah, there are countries in Europe that the tip would be considered an insult.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. You're still live.
Oh, sorry.
Don't
I
worry.
think Europe. I think Europe is a lot like that too, isn't it? Like I think it's more of a
Yeah,
culture thing
yeah,
than
it
anything
is.
else.
Yeah, Americans, just in case you haven't been to some of these countries, Americans are known as some of the most generous tippers in the world, right? But it's very much built into the whole kind of capitalist ethos of this country. The original idea of
Yes.
tipping was actually to bribe the staff to get you the best service out of the house. There are countries, and
Right.
I don't think you heard this, Matt, but there are countries in Europe and definitely in Asia where to tip someone, like Japan is like this, is an insult, right?
Yeah, I've
Because it's
heard
seen
that.
as seedy. It's like, how dare you? You're like trying to bribe me off, and like you offend my honor, right? That's how tipping's viewed in other parts. So Canada's not that way, but we're a little bit more kind of like we're always going to take the kind of like the halfway goal,
So
right?
here
And
is we're talking about horror stories, right?
yeah, you're your turn. Yeah, so go
Sorry.
for it. Go for it.
We were talking about like horror stories. just real quick, I just said revert from horror story talking about tipping. Me personally, so I have a client that we a couple years ago, he came in with like this big tax problem from 2013, and normally you can't get refunds back if it's more than 3 years. But anyhow, we fought for him. They didn't do his withholdings right when they did his tax return back then, and blah blah blah. Ended up getting back a whole bunch of money plus interest. So he was all excited. Comes in and buys me a cooler and a 6 pack of beer. Like, man, thank you so much. You rock. Hear that. Guess whose tax return every year I do first now? I will do his. I mean, he'll come in like the day before. Now he comes in before that, but I will drop all this because all he brought me one time was a cake. It's I think it's the heart behind it more than anything.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I understand that. I know that a lot of these customs that we have as well actually started out from kind of that kind of neighborly goodwill. I mean, there's a lot of that here in South Carolina. I found not that. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're listening from Texas, you guys or y'all, I know I just butchered that, but you are super kind folks. I really appreciated living in the Houston area for the 5 years I got there. I'd still be there, but you know, fan of my in-laws are all here, so that brought me back east. But that said, it's very much like like not Pleasantville. That was the movie. What's the place where Leave It to Beaver was set in?
Oh, I know what you're talking. I don't know the town, but I know what you're talking about. Let me Google it.
Yeah, like South Carolina is a lot like that. Now it's changing because you're having a lot of us Northerners move down here, and we're polluting the culture, right?
You
But
are messing it up. Way to go,
yeah,
by the
I'm
way.
trying not to. I mean, Matt, you know how big I am about integrating into the culture that I join, but
Uh,
I'm trying.
the one thing, and I'll good shout out to you, man. So much people have listened to this, they'll get the idea that you obviously are from Canada. Um, but we went to an Astros game last year, and I can tell you by far there was nobody singing the national anthem like you. Like I tell that story. I'm like, if you want to see patriotism, that's what patriotism looks like. That's how immigration should be. Like, that's what we need in our country, not people coming over and get free cell phones and healthcare. Like, that's a contribution. And I know people have like a hard time and running their luck, but somebody that obviously is very glad to be here, wanting to contribute, jumping, feet first into everything and major kudos. I tell that story all the time, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Matt. I'm really touched by that. Thank you very much. That's very
One of my
kind. So,
proudest moments, man. I was like, I don't even know this song, the national anthem as good as you do.
well, I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm
it's
part.
embarrassing to me.
Well,
Go back and relearn it and listen to it. I'm like, I can't believe this guy's gonna know it better than me. So
that's thank you, Matt, and it's a great story
you
behind it
are
too.
more American than I am, Matthew. I can safely say that.
Oh, thanks, Matt. But I'll make sure the immigration officer knows that when come up for citizenship. So, but
I should have filmed the dang thing and like showed him for you, man. Here you go.
no, well, this is good enough. I mean, that was just organic. We did not plan this, by the way. So, but
By the way, the
no.
town was called Mayfield for the Leave It to
Mayfield,
Beaver.
yeah, yeah. No, it very much feels like Mayfield. Camden, South Carolina, very much feels like Mayfield, but with a very colonial twist because there's a lot of battles that happened during the American Revolution that are kind of overlooked, that are dotting all these different areas right around the town. So it's actually very beautiful. If you like history, here's a shout out. Come to Camden, beautiful area. There's some hotels actually right off the freeway there, so it's a nice place to come and stay. It's about an hour away from Myrtle Beach as well, or not Myrtle Beach. Sorry, that's a little longer, but Florence, South Carolina, that area, where our one Bucky's is, by the way, is over in Florence.
Oh, that's true. You guys have a Bucky's over
We
there.
have a Bucky's, so thankfully, mercifully. so, but yeah, no, come out to Camden. It's great, and they're doing a lot for the
I think we
250th
drove past
anniversary.
that Bucky's. Is that on the way to Pennsylvania? No, you're not on the way to Pennsylvania, are you?
Not directly, but the 995 where the Bucky's is on its way up to Pennsylvania. Goes to Philly.
We did. We stopped at that Bucky's. We went to a Texans game, the playoffs with Pittsburgh,
Okay.
and this is my daughter, my oldest, and my nephew and I. We just decided to let's do a road trip and like drive up here from Texas, go to the game, and we stopped there. Oh, that's a hoot. So that's where you're by, man. That is a nice place, man.
Yeah, no, it's a really nice area. So, and again, I said on the historical side, there's a lot of stuff going on for the 250th anniversary. What the fancy folks would call the bi. Let me see if I can do this. The sesqui bicentennial.
Yeah, that sounds way fancier than me.
Yeah, that's an easier way of saying. Than for me, it's easier to say than 250th anniversary. So, So it's just math, right? So I'm the one. I'm the one. I don't know if you ever see in the movies, like reading the credits and seeing the copyright, and it's got it all in Roman numerals. I'm like sitting there going, I know when this was made. So
I you are that one. I can contest. I'm the one that like gets up before the last scene. Like I can't stay. This is taking too long. Let's move on, people. And
what
yes,
movie? Yeah,
you're the one that reads the fine print. Like you read this stuff.
what was the movie I saw recently that had a hidden ending? My wife actually walked out because she was done, like ready to leave, and I stayed, and there was actually a hidden ending for it. I can't remember what I saw though. Oh, you know what it
Was it a
was? It
good
wasn't.
movie?
It wasn't a theater. It was the new. Is that villains movie? The cartoon with all the snake and the wolf and all that. Bad guys. Bad
Oh,
guys too.
yeah, I haven't seen it
I won't
yet.
spoil it. I won't spoil it. It's a good movie, by the way. I highly recommend it. But there is a hidden ending at near the end of the credits. So
So stay watching.
stay watching. Yeah. So and
I can
very
do
well
that.
crafted too. I got to say that was very well done. So. But anyway, back. We'll kind of wrap this up here in a little bit. But I guess the last
Back
thing
to
we'll see.
taxes.
Yeah, we'll get back to taxes. I don't know if we'll bring you back for some of the other topics we talked about. Talking about later, Matt. But I guess last thing, let's just kind of give maybe one last piece of advice to folks before if they're having to file by April 15th, or kind of want to get it out of the way. Or if they're just kind of going to go for the extension route, what's one piece of advice that you would give to folks this year before they start looking into their taxes?
It's better to file an extension than make a mistake and rush things. And if
Yeah.
you're worried about owing, just throw the government some estimated payments or an estimated payment, and then just the interest is the interest you're going to accumulate is not worth if you make a mistake and have to do an amended return.
Yeah.
Just take your time.
Yeah, that's good advice. I like that. So it's better to measure twice, cut once, right? Than
Yes.
mangle things. So I think for me, what I'm going to say is it's kind of related. I get the sense a lot of people are just very afraid to kind of get into their taxes this year. There's that anxiety that comes with doing it, and it can be a bit intimidating. I would just say, just go for it, right? The sooner you start on it, right? You don't have to finish early, as you said, but I would start early, right? Even right now, like block out some time on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening when the kids aren't going to be around. If your spouse is, depending on who's doing the taxes in the house, so spouse is not going to be busy. They can take the kids off your hands, right? Put the stuff together. If you're going to do it yourself. If you need help from one of us, feel free again to reach out to either through the channel or through Matt's email. We can help out with that. And I said the more time, the better. I've actually, again, earlier today, I was working on a return where I told the person when they came in, I said, look, there's lots of time to fix this, right? You got 3 weeks until April 15th. Don't stress about it, right? You don't want to be in that boat even a week before. Again, if you're watching this and it's April 8th, fine, right? But
File an extension. Don't stress.
yeah, but you'd prefer to start this now, right? If you can, right? And remember, if you know that this is something that's going to need some help, and or you're going to have to pay extra taxes or whatever, then basically just remember what's coming up. You got Easter weekend coming up next week, right? So if you're a big Easter family, you're doing a lot of stuff, the cooking, the relatives and all that. Just remember that weekend's pretty much shot right now, as far as
Yep.
availability for stuff like this, right? The That leaves you literally one weekend after this week, right? Before the tax deadline for for filing, and if you have to pay, unless you take Matt's strategy here, right? But I'd say at least start looking at it. You don't have to have everything finished, but sometimes I even recommend to folks, just take 30 minutes and go through your documents, make sure you have all of them there. Don't worry about what the numbers say. Don't worry about how much you owe and all that. Just put it together. You're going to feel a lot better by the end of that because at least you'll feel like you have a bit of control over the situation.
Well, and this is what I know about that. If you owe, you owe. So whether you know you owe doesn't change the fact that you still owe. So
Hmm.
it's better to figure out what you owe and then have a plan behind it. That means reaching out to the IRS, maybe asking for a settlement or doing payment plans, typically, stuff like that, versus ignoring them. Yeah, they don't go away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'll end off here with this. Really appreciate you joining us here for this today, Matt. I said all the best as you wrap up the official tax season. Right, I know it doesn't really end on April 15th for us,
No.
uh, we really appreciate you taking some time tonight to kind of talk through this stuff with us. I think it was great. We'll have you back for other topics, and maybe we'll do this kind of thing again next year when tax season starts up again. But um, but yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll have this up on YouTube and other socials here shortly. Maybe it'll go viral. Who knows, right? I mean, hey, look. The fact
It's
that TikTok.
taxes. There's nothing
Yeah.
viral about tax. The only
Well,
thing
no,
that's
you
viral
say
with
that. You
taxes
say
is
that.
those like little shorts that people have
Yeah,
a Lamborghini and be like, "Look what I wrote off." Oh
yeah,
my god, I just get. Oh, I had a client. I swear. Sorry, I know we gotta go.
yeah,
By the way, thank you for having me.
yeah,
And this has been great. I enjoyed talking about this. Taxes is just it's a lot of fun because there's a lot of different things. I know people hate it because they have to pay the government, but I love it. We're able to do and live in a cool country because we do pay taxes. So you got to think about the positive side of that part. But on a last note, real quick, if you ever hear what I call tax bar talk, people have told me, people say, my brother-in-law, my blah, blah, blah. Oh, please. You know what? Take that advice, crumple it up, and throw it in the trash.
yeah. I hear the lawyers have the same problem too, right? The one guy that knew how to get out of every speeding ticket or whatever, right? Guaranteed. And so
And then
yeah,
you meet
I'm
up
with
with
you.
him 20 years ago, or you meet him up with him like fast forward 20 years, the dude's in jail.
Yeah, yeah. Just getting out of jail actually from a 20-year sentence, right? So.
Yeah, right.
So good stuff.
Oh
Well,
man.
yeah, no, thanks again, Matt, and hope you have a great evening. All the best with the rest of your tax season, and
Uh,
we'll